So, yesterday was pizza day at my home. My mate whips up a delicious tomato sauce. This time it was a simple onion and red pepper spicy sauce. I begin the day by making pizza crust from scratch. Making pizza crust from scratch begins around 9 in the morning with mixing the ingredients and then kneading that dough for about 15 minutes. From entering the kitchen to leaving the dough on a sieve over a pot of hot water to rise, we're talking about more or less 40 minutes of physical kitchen labor. I usually listen to podcasts while I do this type of physical activity. Yesterday, though, I clicked on a YouTube mix, something I've rarely done. First song up was I Ain't Got None of My Friends Left by Jessewelles, a song I've only recently discovered, and one that has only recently been composed, so couldn't have discovered it much earlier, and a song that I've committed to memory and will spend the summer afternoons learning to play on my guitar. The strength behind the lyrics overwhelms me, and as I sing, I find some of those words hard to recite without choking up. That song was followed by several more of Wells's compositions, most of them a kind of protestsong, that of course made this late baby boomer cast his memory back to Joanbaez and Bobdylan and even Johnnycash and donmclean. And behold, like the YouTube AI was reading my mind, the Jessewelles songs are interrupted by American Pie, and I have to stop and cry as I watch the video as McLean sings this masterpiece to a small, in-the-round audience back then when I would have been a kid. I was a kid. I heard American Pie on the school bus on my way to school. I didn't really hear it anywhere else. My mother didn't listen to the radio. I didn't have a radio myself. Well, that's only a half-truth. I often had a transistor radio, but I rarely had batteries for it. We'd hear an abbreviated version of American Pie on that bus ride, though. Maybe it was a version made for radio. Maybe the DJ cut it short. Long songs were too long. Anyway, didn't matter. The song stuck in our heads. We couldn't remember all the lyrics, but the chorus, that was easy, and we sang it as it played on that radio. Some kids got their hands on the record and shared the lyrics. Some of the imagery haunted, but it was the chorus that remained. I've got a guitar playlist for my guitar practice. That is, I've got a couple of dozen songs that I like that I gradually play through and sing. Besides American Pie, which is still a favorite camp song even here in Spain, I've got Blowing in the Wind, a song I could easily use in ESL classes, Country Roads, Hallelujah, Morning Has Broken, The Times They Are A-Changing, We Shall Overcome, On the Turning Away. When I play these songs in my simple chord strumming or even simpler arpeggio style, when I sing these songs aloud again, I often choke up. I can connect with the origins of their composition because I was there. I was growing up, growing aware of what was going on in the world that was making young artists pick up their guitars and harmonicas and write words that spoke truth to power. How could you not choke up at moments like, how many deaths will it take till he knows that too many people have died? I hear her voice in the morning hours, she calls me. Radio reminds me of a home far away. Baby, I've been here before, I've seen this room, and I've walked this floor. Morning has broken, like the first morning. Blackbird has spoken, like the first bird. Come senators, congressmen, please heed the call. Don't stand in the doorway, don't block up the hall, for he that gets hurt will be he who has stalled. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe that we shall overcome some day. Just a world that we all must share. It's not enough just to stand and stare. These are all moments in these songs that evoke images of hope in the face of injustice, of civil unrest, of voices calling out from the streets towards the metaphorical ivory towers where the same old people try to get away with the same old shit. You have to wonder, you have to ask yourself, what's wrong with those old farts? Worse, what happens when we ask ourselves, what's wrong with us? Yeah, that's actually the question. We've been singing to ourselves all the shit about what's wrong with them for decades. We've been beat, water hosed, shot at, demonized, and yet we've moved forward. Now we're shouting again, but for some reason not all of us. Some of us who watched as flowers were pushed into the barrels of guns, while youth gyrated to music and colors and psychedelic drugs, some of us seem to have taken the mantle of those old farts that button their floppy neck folds behind their ties and they don the uniform of uniformity. Some of us have taken all that seriously, as if it were inevitable. Yet, we can see that it's not inevitable. In our own collective memory, we have the cultural references that live on even in the virtual reality of internet, available to all to observe, enjoy, study, and understand. Maybe it's time to move away from the contemporary commentary on what is wrong. We know what is wrong. Those old farts are afraid of their own mortality. They are afraid they won't leave a mark. The marks that are most remembered seem to be the evil ones. We all remember Watergate and horrible things that Richard Nixon said and did. We don't remember much about his policies. We certainly don't remember what executive orders he signed in his first 100 days. We remember Kennedy, maybe because of the missile crisis, maybe because of his assassination, maybe because of his skirt-chasing ways. We remember Reagan, trickle-down economics, Star Wars, tear down this wall, and the shining city on a hill. We remember Carter because he farmed peanuts and was in office during a hostage disaster. We remember Clinton because of a stain on an intern's dress. We remember Bush because towers fell and wars were declared. Obama, we begin to forget. Yeah, there's that Obamacare thing. But is that really something to be remembered? Despite the sometimes horrible things that were done by any of those leaders, they continued to be leaders. It didn't matter that Kennedy might have been intimate with Monroe. It mattered that he inspired a youthful generation, the generation of my parents, to think that modernity could be enjoyed by all. Reagan and his rule were instrumental in pushing me towards emigration to Europe. Nowadays, we find sources of current troubles in his presidency. Clinton gave off an aura of progressive politics, but seemed to do just as much damage as any other before him, but not after him. Bush did manage to do much more damage. He seemed to usher in the era of extreme right politics, the Tea Party, and expansion of presidential powers. Obama, well, a good orator, had good speechwriters, positive message, strong, likable wife. Until the current presidency, presidents stuck to the script, a script we all know since Kennedy began debating Nixon. We can do it, yes we can, America the beautiful, America the great, yada, yada, yada. That doesn't mean that those of us down here on the ground weren't hearing those lyrics ring through our subconscious. And until the current presidency and the next to the last one, our voices singing those lyrics together made those leaders sit up and take notice in one way or another. Nixon resigned. Reagan managed to say the word AIDS. Bush Jr. tried to de-demonize American Muslims. They were sensitive to the voice of the people. They were leaders because they sometimes listened. And it doesn't take away the legacy that really evil people leave behind. While everyone knows who Hitler was and what he was part of, how many people know who Merkel was? Still is. And what she was part of. Come on, let's see a hand count. We remember the bad guys a lot more easily than the good guys. We'll forget Biden, despite the actual good his presidency tried to do. We will probably always remember the man who occupied slots 45 and 47, not because he's done good. No, we all know he is not good. But the songs that led us to believe that a good exists, that we can be a part of that good, those continue to be there and should be shared and sung. We can all be of one voice beyond the rhythmic chanting at demonstrations. We can learn to sing these songs, participate and take advantage of that creativity to push for the change and maintenance that those old farts are so afraid of. In the end, I am adding a new lyric to those that choke me up, that are difficult for me to sing through because of the emotion they arouse. And if it looks a bit familiar, like it did the other time, they say that history don't repeat itself. No, history just rhymes. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to
listen, like, subscribe, and share.
Links are where you expect to find links. Cheers.
You're listening to Radio Revel.